Corley Moore coming at you. Wanted to talk very briefly before the scrap starts tonight. And if you know me, you know that I love the Vigilantes. I love the like-minded souls, and I'm always looking for ways that we can have more interaction. One of the things that every Vigilante says when they join is they're looking to connect with those like-minded souls. They're looking to connect with other Vigilantes and people who feel the way they feel. And so I'm constantly looking for ways to make that happen. So far, I love Patreon. I love Patreon for bringing us together, but it hasn't created that the ability to share information and things the way I wanted. But one thing we did discover was that Discord is integrated into Patreon. So we've been working for the last couple weeks to launch a Discord server where the Vigilantes can get together and hang out. Now, I'll be the first person to say I am not a tech guru. I'm much better at forcing doors and hook and sealing. I'm better at destroying stuff than I am at using technology. But that being said, Discord has so many options that look like they could be phenomenal for the Vigilantes and for our growth and for the fellowship and the camaraderie that we want to share. It's got chat rooms that you can post in, separated by category, where we can have great discussions. It's got voice channels you can jump in and have voice discussions with people at the drop of a hat without needing to start a Zoom call or anything. You just drop in and drop out. You can share screens. We have plans. People have plans to share classes that they've built so they can get feedback before they go and teach those classes. I mean, there's so much that could be used for this Discord server, and we're just scratching the surface. So get in, come be a part of it, man. It looks to be an incredible platform, and if you want to be a part of it, head over to patreon.com/thevigilantes. Become a part, man. If you're not a Vigilante, why not? $5 a month. You can't even afford a fancy coffee nowadays for $5. So $5 a month, you're a member of the like-minded souls. So come be a part. Looking forward to seeing and talking to you in the Discord. Stay safe.
Introducing the affordable Standpipe prop, another innovative solution by Affordable Drill Towers. The affordable Standpipe prop is a realistic training prop that allows you to conduct real-world training in your classroom and flow water in your parking lot. Crafted with efficiency and affordability in mind, the affordable Standpipe prop is designed to meet the needs of engine company training. We took the fire suppression system of a 7-story building, compressed it into 4.5 feet, and mounted it horizontally on our proprietary cart. For durability, the manifold is constructed of 4-inch Schedule 40 galvanized pipe with 7 2.5-inch outlets. Enjoy effortless maneuverability from 4 heavy-duty casters, 2 that are fixed and 2 that swivel with double locking brakes makes wheeling this prop a breeze. Yet, the locking casters prevent movement when flowing water. The entire unit is sandblasted. An epoxy powder coat finish is applied, followed by a red top powder finish. 2 reinforced shelves allow for transport and storage of fire hose, appliances, and tools. The basic model includes a 2.5-inch Siamese fire department connection, 6 2.5-inch angle hose valves, a system pressure gauge, and a sprinkler head with a control valve and water motor gong. The 7th outlet comes capped. The affordable Standpipe prop is available with your choice of Fireground adjustable pressure reducing valves from Elkhart Brass, Zurn, and Giacomini. You can also add the Dixon PRD, a screw-on adjustable pressure restricting device, a 7th standard hose valve, an additional sprinkler head, or the optional speed swivel appliance that can be used on the FDC. We pressure test the affordable Standpipe prop to 300 psi so that you can pump realistic fireground pressures. If you need custom threads, a specific FDC, have any questions, or need a quote, just let us know. Elevate your training regimen with the affordable Standpipe prop, setting a new standard in fire department training excellence. Reach us at 84455 Towers or info@affordabledrilltowers.com.
Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap number 279. My guest tonight is Dr. David Griffin. He is the Assistant Chief of Administration in Charleston, South Carolina. He was the operator of the first new engine on June 18th, 2007, when 9 of his fellow firefighters perished. He has come through the ranks in operations in every uniform position, from firefighter to assistant chief, during his 19-year career in Charleston. He has I, I even try. I had to get him to summarize it because he has studied a lot academically. So much stuff that it's hard to list it all. But trust me when I say he has the absolute paper to back up what he is talking about. From places with names like the Citadel, Harvard, Cornell, Yale. He has the doctorate, the bachelor's, the master's. He is a best-selling author and a highly sought-after speaker. He is the owner of On a Mission, inspirational speaking at drdavidgriffin.com, where he has worked with over 1,200 organizations, 46 states, 3 countries, and over 500,000 people reached. It is my absolute pleasure to have him on the scrap for episode number 279. My brother, David Griffin, welcome back.
Glad to be here, man. We're getting old. 79 was the first time I was on.
Yes, brother. It's 200 episodes in between. That's crazy to even think about.
I know.
Anything you want to add to the intro? Anything you'd like to add? There was a lot to try and cover and try to summarize. So anything you want to add?
No, I think the only thing I want to add is I started out as a firefighter scrubbing toilets like everybody else hopefully did. And I've learned my way through the ranks, and glad to be here tonight to talk about some real serious stuff we need to talk about. We'll probably get into some things that everybody's feeling. So I'm hoping we have some good engagement tonight.
I love it. I love it. Audience, get your questions primed and ready. It's going to be a good one. It's going to have a lot of good topics. There we go. People are logged in. Hold on, making sure. I got an error here. Making sure. Okay, making sure it was still running. It is. Okay. Boom, boom. Here we go. I'm going to talk about the sponsors, get the sponsor stuff out of the way, pay the bills, and then move on to the show. So let's talk about those beautiful sponsors. When it comes to performance under pressure, you need equipment that won't let you down. That's where American-made Snap-Tight comes in. Built tough for firefighters, Snap-Tight hose is engineered to perform under pressure. Plus, Snap-Tight hoses are easy to deploy and even easier to rely on, with unmatched heat resistance to abrasion and extreme temperatures. Here's the best part. They offer guaranteed shipping and 4-week lead times. Visit snaptighthose.com to learn more or find a distributor near you. Snap-Tight hose. Reliable, durable, and it's ready when you are. Affordable Drill Towers, on a mission to bring you cost-effective and versatile training props, like the Affordable Bailout Prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high point rescues. They also make the Affordable Standpipe Prop, which you can roll into the classroom for standpipe theory and then roll it into the parking lot and pump realistic flows and pressures. They also make the Affordable Drill Tower, their mainstay, which comes in several configurations and standard with a standpipe system. You can choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs integrated into your existing connect boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing you can't do on an affordable drill tower is live fire training. Call Steve, 844-55-TOWER, or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. And finally, firefighter safety and accountability starts with being able to quickly find and identify individual firefighters operating on the fire ground. Identifier Safety combines the best in photoluminescent materials for durable firefighter identification solutions that can glow for up to 20 hours. No switches, no batteries, which means being able to rapidly identify firefighters by name, unit, or assignment, even under hot fire conditions. All of them specifically designed and tested for the rigors of the job. Be seen, on scene, identifiersafety.com. And there you go. Sponsors are in the books, and we're ready to get to the scrap. Let me make sure. There we go. Aussie Steve checking in. I'm checking with the chat right here. Front row seats are filled up. Gregory Van Ham said, I had a privilege of hearing Dr. Griffin speak in person. I too had the privilege. I've got to catch him when he came to Oklahoma. It's powerful. If you haven't got to do it, it is powerful. Nicely done. Aussie Steve checking in. What up, fam? iPhone boys are checking in. I love it. All right, my brother. We'll just start off by going right to, I always send a list of topics to the guest, and you sent back a great list of topics I can't wait to get into. But to set the foundation, we have to talk about the Charleston 9. So I'm gonna send it to you and let you set the stage, and then we'll go from there.
Every time I teach or every time I do a podcast, I talk about the Charleston Nine. I give this information about them because everything I've learned is from that day. And if you look at my hat, I mean, the hat says everything to me. So everything I talk about tonight is derived from that hat. Everything I've learned, everything you read in that bio, everything I'm going to talk about, it means a lot to me. And I know there's a lot of people that have gone through that in Charleston that I work with today that are on the job, and some that have retired since then. But you have to think in 18 years, we've had to rebuild our department from the ashes back to where it is today. And we've lost over 195 of those original members that we had on the job then. So there's 50 of us left. And that number is decreasing quickly. And it's scary to think about that, you know, the 50 of us that are left, we're now the old guys that are trying to figure out how to do things. And that's the foundation I want to start with tonight, because we'll talk about a lot of intense topics. And if people have never heard me speak before, I want you to realize I come from a background of credibility on this job, and this job means a lot to me. I'm not a guy that talks about things that don't make sense. I am very practical with what I talk about because of what happened on June 18th, 2007. Those 9 firefighters, they gave their lives, and I'm hoping that something I say tonight maybe spark one of you to listen and do things a little bit different, a little bit better, so something like that doesn't happen to you.
No, it is powerful, and I love the fact that you start everything and uh, the homage that basically everything about it. So, first topic to get to based on that, principled leadership.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you've studied leadership, so this isn't just pie in the sky. This isn't just I've read a few books on it. You've studied leadership, not to mention what you've practiced in your positions. So, talk to me about principled leadership, what it means to you, and its impact, especially from the foundation as we talked about.
Man, principal leadership is what I learned when I was 17. Knob. So I was a freshman, but they called you a knob. So they shaved your head. They yelled at you. They told you to shine your shoes and shine your brass. They called you all kind of names. They did all kind of crazy things to you. They probably couldn't do today because it probably wouldn't be okay. But that's where I learned principal leadership. At 17 years old, I was frightened. I was petrified. I didn't know what to think. And then all of a sudden, this started to make sense to me. How they lead, it was based on morals, beliefs, and values. And it's something that's true to me today. It's one of the things we say from the Citadel is a cadet does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. And that's pretty powerful stuff. I had a couple of my friends that did 4 years at our university. And as a senior, they made a mistake and they were kicked out of the university. And I say that because it's unforgiving. And there's mistakes in this life that are unforgiving. And so from that principled leadership, I learned how to lead with principles, morals, and values. And it makes things really clean cut when you're trying to make these decisions that are very, very hard. If you base everything on what you know is right versus wrong based on your values, your beliefs, it just makes it a lot cleaner for me. So principled leadership is basically that. The good thing about principled leadership is everybody's principles are different. Okay. But the hope is that the principles that you have in your organization drives what your people do. I always ask people, what's your mission statement in your organization? You'd be amazed the places I go, people don't know their own mission statement. How do you not know your own mission statement when you're on a rig trying to do the job, right? But I answer that because when I was on a rig, I didn't know our mission statement because it was like 4 or 5 sentences long. You can't expect firefighters to remember these mission statements that are so long that they don't understand them. So our mission statement is pretty clean. And that's what I love about it. It's a few words that we can remember, but from our mission statement comes our vision and then our principles and how we lead the organization, but also how our individuals in the organization lead us. And I talk about principal leadership from kind of the bottom up. I like to do station visits, and I did a station visit the other day, and these guys just totally opened up to me and just let me know all these things that were bothering them. And like, that truly means a lot to me because that's what drives me to focus and think every single day. How do you lead people if you don't know what's going on in the stations? How do you lead people if you don't know what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, what their day is every day on these rigs? And so that's why I put myself in these situations to walk into stations and sit there and take the beatings is what I say. Like, my rules when I sit down for a station visit, I have 3 rules. Don't cuss at me. You can cuss, just don't cuss at me. Don't physically harm me. And number 3, don't yell at me. Other than that, you can get emotional, you can vent, you can do whatever you want to do. Because a lot of times firefighters just want to get off their chest things that are bothering them. But as a leader, if you're not willing to sit there and take that, then you're not going to be able to grow that relationship with your people. And that's the principled leadership I try to follow. I'm not perfect. I'm not the best leader ever. I make mistakes. I'm still trying to learn. But in this type of leadership, offer the advice to others that you got to give each other grace. The example I give is, just because I'm an assistant chief and someone else is a captain, that captain and me are both trying to learn our position and improve every single day. We're still going to make mistakes. And so when you have that understanding, the hope is that I'm going to give that captain some grace, but hopefully that captain gives me some grace too if I make a mistake, because I know I don't know all of it and I'm still trying to learn in my position. I think it just makes it cleaner. I know from the Citadel, when I was being taught how to lead other cadets, that was a challenge, because you got to think these cadets are your age and now you're having to lead them.
Right.
It was a really big challenge, but I've taken that and I've tried to use that for the remainder of my life. And it was funny when I graduated, in 2002. So yeah, I'm a little bit older, kind of crazy. But when I graduated in 2002, I didn't think about that very much until about 10 years later, when I started to really re-engage in leadership and education. And, a few years after the Charleston 9 event happened, and I realized, man, the foundation is right there. We just have to tap into it.
No, brother. So much there. You touched on so much that I want to touch on, and so I'm going to try and go through my notes and pick apart and pull threads on what you just said. Uh, Principle-based leadership. You touched on the mission statement. I want to ask, if you don't mind, if you'd share the few words that are easy to remember that you say is your mission statement.
Yes, sir. So our mission statement in our organization, it was like 3 or 4 sentences.
Right. Like most organizations. Yeah.
And it was. And I'm telling you this before I give you the mission statement, because I want you to understand, like, when I was on the first iteration of writing the first mission statement, we had a strategic plan. So I was with the person that was saying it needs to be 3 to 5 sentences, all this, we do this, we do that, blah, blah, blah. And then when our new fire chief came in, he was like, man, you got to make this a little bit more realistic, right? And so we started thinking about it, and I said, man, that makes sense. So he told us we had a few words to figure out what our mission statement was, but also what our vision was. So our mission statement: excellent people providing exceptional service to create a safer Charleston. Pretty simple to remember, right? We don't talk about fighting fire. We don't talk about community risk reduction. We don't talk about cutting cars, CPR, EMS. Excellent people provide exceptional service. If I'm going to your house to put a smoke alarm in, I'm going to be an excellent person, and I'm going to give you exceptional service. I'm going to put you a nice smoke alarm in. I'm going to tell you how it works. I'm going to tell you when to replace it. If I'm going to your school to do a fire presentation, I'm going to do the same thing there. If I'm going to a burning house in the middle of the night, our guys are going to do the same thing there. I think it makes it more clean, because you know that what we do in our profession today is so much more holistic than just going to a fire. We do so much more today. And I think that's where that mission statement comes into play.
No, excellent people providing exceptional service. Dude, now you said that you had a few words to describe your mission, which led to your vision. Do you mind sharing the vision?
That is our,
it is. Okay.
Yeah. So mission statement is excellent people providing exceptional service. And then our vision is to create a safer Charleston.
To create a safer Charleston. Okay. So that's the part. Yes.
And it was, once we started talking through it, it made so much sense, because it's everything. What I do every day, I don't go to structure fires as an operator anymore, because I'm an assistant chief of paperwork, right? I get that. You can throw the jabs at me. You can say I'm a paper pusher. It's all good. I understand that, but somebody's got to do it, right? So as I'm doing this and I'm learning, I'm like, well, excellent people providing exceptional service, I got to really do this spreadsheet really well, so our people can get more money next year. We can get more funds. We can increase our budget. So it's just every part of the organization, every facet, whether you're a civilian, you're uniformed, you're a fire marshal, it's all encompassing.
Oh, to create a safer Charleston, man. And I'm a huge fan of KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, man. And I say that not in a derogatory, like simple as, I love it, brother, because that's firefighter friendly, and absolutely you can apply it to anything, no matter what level of the organization you're at, bro. I absolutely love it. So you touched on this, and you said that your values may not necessarily be my values, but we belong to an organization. And talk to me about, as you moved up, and of course, like you said, the maturation process for all of us is different. You grew up in the fire service, obviously starting at age 17 with a crucible like the Citadel to shape you and stuff. But talk to me about values and how you came about to where you could discover that yours may differ from someone else's, but you could define those organizational values and then move forward from there.
I think the beauty of having different principles and values is what brings the personalities and the growth of an organization. I always relate it to a sports team. When you look at a sports team, you have personalities. You have people who are different. They look different. Their hair is different. Their attitude is different. Their swagger is different. They wear their cleats different. That's a good thing. That's what makes a team a winning team. And as I think back on my time at the Citadel, we were a military college, and just happens to be when I played there from 98 to 2002, we're the winningest class of all time in baseball. So we had like 5 championships, regular season, tournament championships, went to super regionals, all these things, right? And it was a really cool time to be a part of that because we were a structured military academy. We put our uniforms on, we looked the part, but we all had different attitudes and different swaggers. We believed in different things. We believed certain things were better than others. And I think that's where it comes into play. So that's the true essence of what you want. If everybody looks like me, acts like me, and does like me, then it's kind of boring. Everybody's a robot. That's not what you want. You want people who make decisions and you give them the empowerment to make that decision. And as I've moved through the organization and learned that, I'm still learning it. You know, as the assistant chief, it's been a very rough 2.5 years, I would say, for me trying to understand where do I fit in with a lot of these things because I'm so firefighter driven. Like the most important thing of my day is the people out there on the rigs. Like all the other stuff doesn't matter to me. That's what's important to me because they're the ones that I worry about because of my hat that I have on my head. I worry about that. When they go to fires in the middle of the night, I listen and I'm concerned because I just have that feeling of what we went through before. And some people will never understand that. And they'll say that I'm paranoid or I'm overbearing when it comes to that. But when you carry 9 and you bury 9 in 7 days, it changes the way that you think about things. So things are a little bit more serious for me than the average person. When the average person doesn't wear their gloves, you see you not wearing your gloves. I see my friend who had his hand burned off because he died in a building. That's the difference that I'm talking about. And so when you have someone that has that drive, but then you have someone else who may not have that drive, they couple each other very well because you need someone that thinks a little bit different. Everybody can't be as intense as me all the time. Trust me, it's not going to work. So that's where you have other people who are more laid back to kind of bridge that gap. And that's why I think leaders that I look to bring that to me. They bring that calmness to me. I know one of my good friends, he's an assistant chief. He sees me when I get all worked up and he just pulls me to the side and he talks to me. He's like, you know, all right, let's just talk through this, you know, but because he knows I am very passionate and emotional about what we do, but that is his value is being calm and focused. My value is being calm, but also being very intense so people understand the importance of why we do what we do. So there's a balance between both of those.
No, absolutely. And dude, the passion is in your voice and it absolutely carries in your words. Now, when you say you go around visit the stations, which I think is one of the most phenomenal habits that anybody can have, that especially as the title of chief, because it's so easy to get up there, get lost in the paperwork, sit behind your desk, and forget about the men and women that ride the rigs. But you said you go around and you talk to them.
Yes, sir.
Was that intentional? Is that something you just tell me the process that got you there?
All right, so the station visit. So our fire chief, when he came down to us about 6 years ago, he was with another fire department, and for 3 months, he'd drive here on the weekends, and he would go to station visits. Now, let's back up about 12 years ago when Tom Carr came to us. First thing he did is Tom Carr, let me back up so people know the history of this.
Okay.
Tom Carr is the fire chief that came to us after we lost 9 firefighters.
Okay.
So he comes to us 2008. He's going to take us, and he has to rebuild an entire organization. First thing he does is he goes to the fire stations and just does station visits. He sat down at our kitchen table. At this point, I think I was an assistant engineer. I was a backup driver. And I remember him sitting down at the table. He poured a cup of coffee and he said, "So tell me what you guys need." And I was like, the fire chief's asking us what we need. I don't understand, because that had never happened before. And so he kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And you got to realize, he did this with, back then it was 246 people. Today we have 449 people in our department. And so as he did that, I really learned that he was trying to build relationships to be able to have those discussions with your members. And so over time, as I've moved through the organization and when I became an assistant chief, it's something that I wanted to do, but also our fire chief, he brought that to us and said, you need to go to stations, you need to talk to people. So I made it my goal, and all of our other command staff has made it their goal to go to all the stations. So my goal is to go to every station, every shift, at least once a year and sit down with them. It's an official time. I send a calendar invite that says, I'm coming to see you. This is a good meeting. I want you to develop some questions, some concerns that you have. I'm going to take notes, and I'm going to follow up on any questions or concerns that you have. And I truly take that so serious. I put it on my calendar for a reason, because it's easy to be in the office and someone walk in and say, "Hey, Chief David, I have a question about this. I need you to help me with the budget." Nope, can't do that. I have a station visit in 30 minutes. I have to go to station 19, whatever it may be. So, because to me, that's my priority, right? My
Right.
priority is to make sure that I understand what's going on, because if I don't, I can't make good decisions. And so there was about 3 months I couldn't go to the stations because we were having this new program called Workday in our city. It was for like payroll and finance and all of these things. So I had to get in the weeds with this, because we were responsible for our department getting into Workday. So that's everybody's payroll, it's everything. So you don't want to mess that up, right? You mess with somebody's pay, they're going to be upset. So I knew that for these 3 months, but I will tell you, during those 3 months, I did not feel like myself. I felt lost. I was like, man, I just need to be in a fire station so these guys can just give me a hard time and tell me all the bad things that I'm doing and how dumb I am. And like, I'm just real when it comes to this stuff, because I used to be the guy in the firehouse that would look up and say, what are these guys doing? And the difference is I'm now up there and they're saying, what is this guy doing? I'm just more real with it, because I'm just a human trying to do the best I can for people I genuinely care about. And I'm not always going to do a good job. And I hope that resonates with the folks that when I go to the stations, and I will say they're so good when they do these station visits, because they ask hard questions and they want answers, and they deserve answers because they're the ones that are doing the job. And so I take it very serious. I can't always answer the questions because sometimes I don't have the answers.
Right.
Sometimes they have issues that need to be fixed. I can't fix the issues. But the most powerful thing happened after one station visit. A guy pulled me outside and said, "Chief, I know you can't do anything. I just appreciate you letting me vent to you. I appreciate you letting me be aggressive towards you, and you just let me do it." I'm like, "Well, if I come back at you, then what good does that do? I know where you're coming from because I've sat where you're sitting." The other day when I had a meeting with a guy, he was coming at me pretty hard, right? And I was like, man, 15 years ago, I was him. And the guy sitting right here is one of my friends now that I talk to. He's retired and at another place. But I saw myself in that young man. And it just was so, I don't know what it was. It like just made me feel like this old dude that has come full circle, right? And so it just makes me appreciate it much, much more. And I just can't stress it enough. If you're a leader in your organization, you're not going to your stations, I don't know what you're doing. Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you not know your people? And so it's something that I really focus on. I'm very thankful. You know, our assistant chiefs, they get out there and they do their station visits. Our operations chief, that guy's like at a station every day. Like on the way into work, he stops at a station. In the middle of the day, he's running to this station. On the way home from work, he's going to a station. I mean, he's always in the stations and talking to his members because he's the ops chief. So he's the one that's having to really organize a lot of the movement that's going on with, 370 plus operational personnel. So I always say he has the hardest job in the fire department because he really does. But he just does an excellent job of getting to these stations and really finding out what's going on. And then he brings it back to us and we can talk about it as well. So it's one of the biggest things you have to do as a leader, because if you don't, you're going to get lost.
No doubt. I love it. And do you think that was it Chief Carr? Is that was he getting his name right?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that impact from him doing that is what has caused it to be just almost the norm for, like you said, the operations chief and your other assistant chiefs? Because it sounds like this is just a normal thing in your organization at this point.
Yeah, it is. We try to, and that's why we actually have a spreadsheet that we keep track of where we go so we can all make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. And I think that's really good because sometimes we get together as assistant chiefs and we'll have 3 or 4 companies and we'll have coffee with them. And then all of the assistant chiefs will go sit with them as 3 companies. And sometimes at a smaller group like that, it's a little bit better, but there's times I just want to go and talk to a specific company. So yeah, Chief Carr started it because all of us were there when Chief Carr was there, but also when our new fire chief came in, we call him Chief Dan. His name's Dan Curia.
Okay.
So our culture is we call you by first names. So that's why people call me Chief David, like Chief Dan's the fire chief. So when he came in, that was one of the things he focused on and asked us to go out and do. And, for me, I was very thankful that he did that because I don't know where I would have figured that out over time in this journey, the last 2.5 years of being the assistant chief administration. I just don't know where my focus would have been. So I'm super thankful he brought that to us.
That's awesome. I got a couple questions coming at you from the audience. And like I said, sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're not. This one is a tough one coming at you from Carpe Fuego. She wants to know, what would you tell a firefighter who is being ordered by their captain not to ask questions when the chief visits? And it's not just one officer, but multiple officers ordering the same thing.
That's a tough one because you're asking me to give you advice on what to do in your organization,
Right.
and I don't know what your culture is. I know as a leader, I try to allow people to ask questions because who am I not to allow them to ask questions? You're a human just like everybody else, right? I always find that when people don't want questions answered is because they're worried about answering the question. I would rather you not know the answer as a leader and say, listen, I don't know the answer. I'll figure it out, or I just don't know the answer. In that situation, for you as a young firefighter, you have to be respectful, but you still have to stand up for yourself and realize that you do have a voice as a firefighter. I know when I came on the job, now this is 2005, it was a little bit different of a culture back then, but I still had a voice where I could ask questions. So I would say, ask the questions. Maybe talk to your captain and ask, why can't I ask questions? There's things that I'm curious about and I want to learn. But the other side of the coin is there's some captains that when they give you a direct order, that's what they want you to do. And that's unfortunate because in today's world, if a captain's giving you an order not to ask a question, I get very concerned about what their principles and their values are, and really what is their leadership going to do for you. That scares me.
And what their motivation. And there's so much to that question. So it's
Oh
not
yeah,
it's really not a fair question, but it came
right,
at you
right.
and you fielded it very well because
Mhm.
there's so many facets. You could get into the weeds for hours on just that one question, figuring
Oh
out the
yeah,
motivations and everything.
oh yeah.
Uh, Next one is Kyle Piverell wants to know, in your opinion, has video chat and Zoom meetings taken the personal feeling out of in-person station visits?
Oh, it absolutely can if you allow it to, but not if you get in your car and you drive to the station. No. So no, you get in your car, you start it up, and you drive to the fire station. You walk in and say, "What's up, fellas? Let's talk." That's pretty much what you do. So I think that's an easy excuse to use. There's a lot of times that we, as an organization, we actually have command staff meetings every Monday to where all of the officers are together. So we have to be in person. So the other side of that is, yes, I do think that makes it a little bit informal. Now, in a large organization, say there's an organization of 10,000 people and they have multiple divisions, and there's sometimes in those size organizations you can't get from one side of the city to the other and have a meeting like that, right? But in our organization, it's still okay to do that. You can get from one side of the city to the other in 45 minutes and everything in between. So I think virtual meetings are good. Look what we're doing tonight, right? But I'm
Sure.
always more of in person. That way I can just feel the environment. I want that human interaction. I think that's critical as a leader.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. This is a question from me, and I'm saying, David, how many times have you been told, hey, you're just too intense? You need to dial it back?
Usually not when I'm leading. Like, when I
Okay.
when I when I speak and I do podcasts, I'm really amped up because this is my time to hopefully inspire people. But when
Yes.
I'm in a meeting and I'm leading people, it's usually not like that. Now, if there's something that's going on in a discussion or a meeting that's really against my moral compass, then absolutely I'm going to be very direct with that. I think people that know me know I'm a very direct speaker. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to be very straightforward because I think that alleviates any issues of any confusion of what I'm trying to tell you.
Mm.
But I don't have to do that because this is me doing a podcast and speaking. When I'm leading someone, I'm much different. I'm more of a, I don't know, I'm kind of laid back at times.
Right on, right on. No, no, no. And I really want to know because you are. And my two interactions with you has been seeing you speak in person and doing your presentations, and then of course this. And right now, dude, I love the passion. Absolutely love the passion. Valerie Tessia coming at you from uh, Canada.
All
The-
right.
What
Hey,
are your recommend? I was trying to think of the exact place, but I locked up. I know it's on the west coast of Canada. But what are your recommendations for reluctant leaders who have found themselves in leadership positions organically, but struggle with imposter syndrome?
I think for them, they have to own it. If you move through an organization, all of a sudden you find yourself in a position that you can't believe that you're in, you're going to just have to own that because if you don't, you're not going to be able to lead the organization. And now the organization is crippled until you decide to either move to another position or you walk away and you do something else. Imposter syndrome is something that people they're going to experience. I don't feel that so much because of what I've lived through in our organization. I I feel when I listen to different things about leadership and I hear leadership talks and things like that, my focus is just so different because of what I'm wearing on my head. I just see things a little bit differently because of a lived experience that 99% of the people on this Zoom meeting have never experienced and will never. And I'm thankful for that. But it allows me to see things a little bit differently. And I hope that when I speak about that, people understand they can take that and also lead the same way. It's just that passion that I want them to have.
No, great, great. Gregory Van Ham, and again, lots the questions are coming now. Gregory Van Ham wants to know, what leadership traits have you gathered from your mentors or years on the job that have helped you grow as a leader?
I think being real. That's it. I'm real. Like, I'm not a fake leader. I'm not going to come into a station and I'm not going to say things that aren't real. I'm going to be authentic. You see who I am. You see the picture you put up on my podcast. I got a boxing glove on. I'm a leader in an organization that does bare knuckle boxing and MMA and jiu-jitsu and all these things. I ride motorcycles. I drive jet skis as fast as I can. I ride wheelies on motorcycles. I'm a real person. So that's my authentic part of me. And I actually learned that from a guy who's not with us anymore. So he's a fire chief in another organization. The good news is he just got hired as the fire chief in another organization close by in our auto aid department. Nice. And so he's coming back. He taught me that. Like, I always saw this guy. He was just super real. There was he just didn't mess around. Like, he led you. He would laugh with you. He'd have a good time. But the dude was just serious. And I think that comes because he's one of the last people to come out of that building on June 18th, 2007. He's literally one of the last people to walk out of that building. And there's a picture of him. He's trying to take his regulator out of his mask and he just can't get it out. And he falls over, and thankfully he was okay. But that's how he leads. And so when I talk about this, that's why I'm so serious about, don't be fake. Don't walk into a station and be fake. Like, show these people how much you care about them, how much you love them, how much you want to help them, how much you want to help their families. Like, really lead them with the passion that you have. And if you don't have that, then you probably shouldn't be leading them.
Sorry, I got to write down timestamps when you're delivering. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Being real, and the places you get it from. Let's move on to resiliency. I don't know of another word that could encapsulate your story, and just go from there.
Resiliency has been a part of my life. I mean, I started out as a young man. I was really small. I was a freshman in high school. I was about 4'10" and 90 pounds. So I got the crap beat out of me pretty much every day. And I got bullied a lot as a kid. And I think it's something that made me super resilient because I never let it get to me to the point to where I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk away. And that's what really got me into lifting weights, being an athlete, combat sports, jiu-jitsu, boxing, all that stuff. And that's where my love came from. And so that was kind of my first taste of being resilient when kids would pick on me over time. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this weakness I have of being small, slow, and picked on, and I'm going to turn it into a strength. And that's kind of just what I've tried to do with my life. Anytime there's a challenge, I try to take that and look at the positive of the challenge. Like, life is hard. I know that 2024 has been, besides 2007, has been probably one of the hardest years of my life. Personal tragedies, professional issues that have gone on. We've had multiple people in our organization that we've had to carry to their final resting place. And so it's been a pretty rough year. But I always go back to thinking through the positive of what you experience in your life, and it's going to make you tougher on the other side. And I'm not saying make you tougher as your attitude tougher, but just make you more where you can take what happens to you, process it, and move forward in the future. And that's what I'm hoping that we start doing in our recruit schools, around the country. I know in our organization, we're very blessed. One of the first days in our organization, we bring our trauma-informed clinicians. So we have 4 of them that work in our auto aid center area. So our auto aid group is 7 organizations. So that those 4 trauma-informed clinicians, they work with us. And so we have people in our recruit school the first day that are learning about mental health and learning about going to a counselor. And we give them all the process to get involved in that. We'll have people in recruit school that are talking to our mental health counselors already. They've never even ridden a fire truck in Charleston. It's awesome to see that, right? And so I think that's where the building resiliency starts, in recruit school. You have to think, kids don't start their life in recruit school. They start their life probably 18 years or more before that. Think about what some of these kids, men and women, have been through. Some of them were combat veterans. They could have been physically abused, sexually abused, mentally abused, all of these things. And they walk in the first day of recruit school. I'm getting so fired up, I'm knocking my microphone over. They walk in the first day of recruit school and we don't understand that they have these challenges. And then we take them on this journey of recruit school, not understanding that they have issues they need to deal with. And what we've seen from that is our members have grown through and moved into operations a much stronger, more resilient group. And hopefully we continue to do that as through their officer development too.
And seeing this process, have you seen the results? Are you pleased with the results and what you're seeing so far?
Absolutely. And I'll say at the chief level, like a lot of us at the chief level, most of us were here before June 18th, 2007, but there's a handful. This is the first iteration, I will say, of those chiefs who have gone through the new recruit schools and the officer development classes. And what you see of these new chiefs, they just have that compassion. They lead a little bit differently. So it's pretty neat to see it. So you got to really watch for it. And I'm always watching to see their interactions and how they're handling certain stressors. And they're really doing a good job. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah. And Valerie, again from Canada, said, I am amazed to hear this and want to celebrate this process. This is a game changer. Man, that absolutely is. That's amazing. To start out the gate with that kind of focus is just yeah, like she said it best. It's a game changer. I'm anxious to see how that extrapolates downstream for you guys.
I am too. My goal is to hopefully, as we have a lot of developmental programs. We have recruit school, then we have pump operations class. We call it Top Pump. You get it, Top Gun, Top Pump.
Gotcha.
Yeah, funny.
No.
And then we do officer development 1, and then we have an officer development 2 class that we're going to roll out again here, hopefully in the next year or so.
Okay.
And then we started doing some assistant chief mentoring, which is basically the assistant chiefs informally discuss what their job is with battalion chiefs who could be interested in one day being in that position. I'm a huge fan of informal mentoring, which means it's organic. It's kind of what we're doing tonight. So for example of this, one of the chiefs will come in and I'll have about 2.5, 3 hours with them. And on my team, I have 4 civilians who they do the budget, payroll, hiring, and then one's an admin assistant. So they go and talk to all 4 of them and learn what they do. And then at the end of it, they come and sit down with me and I kind of talk through what I do as the team leader of the administration team. And it's pretty neat to have those discussions because I start off saying, hey, I'm a firefighter that started scrubbing toilets. And then one day I found myself sitting at this computer. I had no idea how to run a budget. I had no idea where our money came from. I had no idea how to buy anything. And it was just there. And I had to figure it out. And my goal is I don't want the next group to have to do that. I want them to be able to come into the position and be a little bit prepared. So it starts early and we continue throughout their career.
No, that's amazing because it starts in recruit school. Then you got Top Pump, Officer 1, Officer 2 coming, and then you have the mentoring process for the assistant chiefs, et cetera. Is that was that a conscious choice implemented by someone, or is it just kind of an organic movement that said, hey, we need to be better prepared? Or how did that come about? Specifically, I ask for people who want to have that kind of
Right.
momentum built in their organization.
It was organic. You know, we started with our recruit school. My recruit school was 9 days in 2005. Then after the fire, our recruit school went to 6 months and it's continued to be 6 months. And then along the way, we realized we needed to develop some more intent drivers. And I mean intent by intent of how they learned and how they actually understand how an engine pumps, not just pulling levers.
Right.
And so that's where Top Pump kind of grew from. And that was a really fun class to be a part of developing back when I was an engineer, because you really got to see these young men and women. They understood how the water is moving from the hydrant through the pump, through the impellers and out. It was so cool to see. And then when you see them in officer development, that's for your engineers who are going to be acting captains. That's a really neat process because that's when they're really starting to get their wings a little bit and fly as a leader, but they really just don't know how to do it. And I've been in that position and I try to give them as much info as I can in a little bit of time I get with them. But we have all of our chiefs go in over that time. We have captains go in during that 2-week time to teach them. And then the officer development too. We haven't done that in a couple of years. It's kind of been being redeveloped, but hopefully that will roll out again soon. That's for BCs and ACs. And then we started the mentor process because some of the assistant chiefs, we were kind of just discussing, you know, the next few years, there's a lot of us that are probably going to be leaving the organization and they'll be able to move on. I won't be one of them. I'm going to be there for a while, but they're going to be leaving the organization. And we want to make sure that these up and coming BCs have an idea of these positions. And that's kind of how it started. So it's always been a group effort. I'm just thankful to have a group around me that really enjoys doing these types of leadership things.
Beautiful. I love the Top Pump deal. I do, man. Hey, Top
Oh,
Gun's one of
man,
my
we had hats and T-shirts, we had
Oh, dude.
insignias.
I
It
can
was
see
beautiful.
the identity, but that belongs to it, man. Just the pride that people get when they finish it. I absolutely love that. Joe Gavita wants to ask you this: what was your reasoning or desire to move into the assistant chief or admin role? How did that hit you when you got hit with that?
Well, I was a shift commander at the time. So let me back up a little bit. So I tested for battalion chief and I made battalion chief and I got sent to training as the battalion chief of training. So I did maybe 2 recruit schools there. And then I came out of battalion chief of training and went to a battalion 5 as the battalion chief. So then the shift commander position opened up and I tested for that. I didn't get the promotion. Our current ops chief did, which he should have. He was the most senior and much better at the job than I am. He got the job as the assistant, as the shift commander. And then he made assistant chief like maybe 2 months after that as the operations chief, which he should have been. I mean, the guy's golden. And so as he made assistant chief, I actually tested for the assistant chief of ops for the experience, knowing that I probably would not get it because I just wasn't ready. It wasn't my time. And so when he made assistant chief of ops, I went to shift commander. So then when I was shift commander, we had an assistant chief of administration who did the budget and accreditation. That person was leaving the organization. So they split that role into 2 different assistant chief positions, which I don't know how that person did both of those jobs because they're both very, very intense jobs. Right.
Right.
And so then there was just a testing process. It was, hey, this assistant chief position is open and would you like to test for it? And I'm thinking, man, I don't really know much about the budget. I had thankfully 2 months before the promotional test, I went to Alabama Fire College and I took fire officer 4 and 5. I don't even know why I did this. It was like November of the year before. And I was like, you know what? I really want to go take officer 4 and 5 at like this different state just to get a different perspective. Right. So I went and stayed in a hotel for like 3 weeks and took officer 4 and 5. And then a couple months later, this promotion comes available and I take the test and it was an interview and I got promoted. And I remember my fire chief walked by my office the first day. He looked at me, he said, good luck, go forth, do great things and don't mess it up. The only difference is he didn't say mess. He said something else. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is how it's going to be.
Right on.
So no, it wasn't my desire wasn't to be in administration, but I think as you move through an organization, you have to have a holistic view of what every position does to be able to lead an organization. You got to have a big perspective of how this big wheel works.
Right on. No. And I love the perspective that you have with that because you've used that to turn that into the mentoring position so that other people aren't in your position and leaving it better than the position you found yourself in. Chuck H is coming at you with a question. I really like this question. He says, but Dean Ali and David Rhodes have both talked about bad leadership, specifically leading to mental health issues, and it's something that people don't talk about. So he has a 2-part question for you. What are your thoughts on their statements about toxic leadership and the effects on mental health? And then the second part of the question is, I'm not sure I understand it, so you may have to clarify your second question, Chuck H. But what do you think about the toxic leadership affecting mental health in organizations?
Oh, it absolutely can affect mental health, not just in organizations, in life in general. I will say there's organizations I've been to and I've worked with them to try to help them get to a point to where they can have discussions as leadership. And one organization I went to specifically, everybody on their staff that was admin was looking for another job because of a leader that was in the group. And that's just shows you like toxic leadership really does affect people and it brings it home to their loved ones too. I've spoken with so many people in organizations that have said they go home and they're different to their family, their spouses, their kids, because there's a leader at work that just does something to them they can't describe and it turns them into this person they don't want to be. So I absolutely agree with this. It does lead to mental health issues. And I always try to educate leaders that are a little bit ahead of me as in time on the job, right? My dad's a Vietnam vet. All right. I told you he was a Navy man, hardcore kind of guy. My dad's 75 years old today. Bless his heart. He can barely walk. But back in the day, my dad was a tough dude. Like you didn't mess with my dad. Right. And I say that because over time he's grown to understand that compassion and grace is important when you lead people. Like he's still my dad and there's still things he tries to lead me and make better decisions, but he does it so differently today. What I'm trying to get to is that as you age in this profession, you have to realize that people coming on the job are different. The people aren't like me coming on the job as I was in 2005. And that's okay. That's a good thing. There's more of them than there is of me. That's what we have to start understanding. There's more new people in organizations than there are me with 20 years on the job. We have to adapt our leadership, our discussions, the way that we gain their attention and their motivation. We have to adapt to them because we can't expect them to adapt to us. It's just a little bit different, but there has to be a balance with that. So I absolutely agree with that. I could go on for a while about that.
No, brother. Everybody's saying it. Timestamp, timestamp. Preach it, preach it. Yeah, it's in the chat. The second part of his question is: do you think in the last 5 years have you seen a decline in leadership? Or he asks in leaders, but I think he means basically in leadership.
That's kind of a tricky question. Leadership, as in, as a
Again,
whole.
I was trying to get clarification on the question because it's not real clear what he's asking. So we can revisit it if he clarifies what he's trying to find out. Because I was struggling with it when I asked you it out loud. I couldn't quite get there.
Right.
Cody Brooks wants to know: do you have outlines available about your developmental programs for your department? Do you have anything that's shareable, or is it all?
Absolutely. We always share it. Our fire chief has given us the ability to share that, and we actually passed a policy that says we can share it. So if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to get it to you. That's no problem at all. That's one of the most shared resources I think our organization gives is the mentoring process and all of the officer development stuff that we do. So absolutely.
That is phenomenal, man, and kudos to Charleston for putting it out there and sharing it, man. Everything you're talking about sounds amazing, and I guess, like you said, it all starts with the hat, and there's a reason for all of it existing, going back. So, and they said it. I'll be reaching out. Awesome. Hell yeah. There's a whole lot of that coming in. Derek 8 asking a question here. The questions are coming, brother.
I love it.
When it comes to the new recruits, do you have a mentorship program for them during the academy, or do they go straight to shift and learn, grow with their crew?
Great question. So this is something we acknowledged a couple years ago that we needed to do. So we have someone that's working on that process now to have a mentor in recruit school. And the person that's doing this is a good friend of mine. I think he's going to take it to another level. But the reason why we wanted to do that is because we had someone from another department speak to us and explain how their mentorship program worked. And it just helps so much because it kind of bridges that gap of anxiety of going from recruit school into a firehouse, because a lot of our new people, they've never been into a firehouse before. So they don't understand firehouse culture, how things go a little bit sometimes. And if they give you a hard time, it's actually a good thing. And so that mentor's there to help them and guide them through that. So that's definitely something that we're working on.
Beautiful, beautiful. And no, I love it. Great question coming at you. I want to touch on spousal support. You have
Absolutely.
Melissa. When I saw you speak, I picked up all the books you had available at the time, and one of them was written by your wife, and it was a small booklet, and I brought it to my wife, and we both enjoyed it immensely. But talk to me about spousal support and how important it's been in your journey, and go.
So spousal support is huge for all of us. We have to remember we go to work for 24, 48, 72 hours. And, think about your loved ones, your wife, your husband, your kids, what they're going through. We seem to forget that we have these mental health struggles with this career because of the things we see, but we don't remember we go home and we project these mental health struggles onto our loved ones, not intentional, but when you go home and you're rude to your family or rude to your kids because you had a bad call, it's not their fault you had a bad call, but you just don't know that you're doing that. You're not intending to do that. It's just this job gets to you so much that you come home and you need a little bit of a break to kind of decompress. And so what I try to ask people to do is if you go home and your spouse is there and you you had a CPR on a 2-year-old 5 minutes before you got home, you're not going to be the same. No human being can just turn that stuff off and be normal. So what I ask people to do is just walk in and say, sweetheart, I had a rough night. I had a call this morning with a 2-year-old. It's really bothering me. I'm going to take a cup of coffee. I'm going to go sit outside. I'm just going to try to breathe through this and try to decompress. Just give me a few minutes. If I snap at you, it's not you. I'm just trying to work through this call that was in my head and it's really bothering me. If you can be upfront about that, I promise you, your spouse will understand and give you a little bit of grace. But if you come home and you're just mean to her or a jerk to them because you had a bad night and you don't talk to them, because we always like to say, well, I don't want to tell that stuff to my family. Well, when you don't let them know that something's bothering you, they think what's bothering you is them. And so then they start to have this fear that you don't love them anymore, or you don't want to come home to them, or you'd rather be at work, when it's just a simple part of communication. But unfortunately, it's not simple for us because number one, we're firefighters. And number two, we see a lot of bad things. And so we just hold all this stuff inside. And so my hope for this year, my wife and I, we actually teach a class together for spousal support. And we talk about that communication skills of what you have to have going through a marriage. I met my wife when I was 19 years old. I was a cadet at the Citadel. I'm 44 years old. So, I mean, I've been with her for over half my life. And so we've had our struggles. We're not a perfect couple. We've made a lot of mistakes and we'll keep on making mistakes. But the thing about us is we're real, we're honest. We try to get out and talk about these struggles that we have. And what we're seeing is it's really starting to make a difference because people are struggling out there. And a lot of it is your spouse. We're not thinking about the spouse that's at home holding the fort down while we're out there, fighting fire, cutting cars, whatever the things that we love to do. And so I'm hoping that when you go to shift, you stay in contact with your loved ones. You call them, you let them know what you're doing. Don't tell them all the guts and the glory of it. I'm not saying that, but let them know that you do stuff that matters, because if you don't let them know that, they have no idea what you do.
Right. No, dude, I love it, man. I want to catch your class. So let me know when I'll just get the schedule. First of all, where can we find out where you're speaking? I'm not wrapping it up, but I want to know this because Valerie just asked the question: is there a way for us to access this booklet by Chief's Wife? And so, best place to get it, if it's still available, of course.
Yes, sir. It's our website, drdavidgriffin.com. It's on there somewhere. You'll find it under books, I think. And then the Find Your Mission tour page, that's where our speaking engagements are next year. I think we have about 25 or 30 already. We're working on about maybe 20 or 30 more. So it's
Nice.
it's early. Usually about this time into January is when the schedule starts to fill up. So, but it's on there, the Find Your Mission tour page.
Excellent. And is that 25, 30 of the spousal one, or just the speaking in general?
Just speaking in general, we have principal leadership with the spousal ones. We probably have 8 or 9 of those scheduled.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
yeah, we got a bunch of different classes now. I guess when you get old, you just have much more to talk about.
There's no doubt. And me and Amanda are going to have to look up and catch one of those, the spousal ones.
Right.
Excellent. And
drdavidgriffin.com.
drdavidgriffin. Okay. .com. There you go. All right. Let me get back to the list. Intense topic, but suicide prevention and suicide postvention. I want to, talk about them here. And Sam put the link in the chat, so you can find it there also if you're watching. So go ahead. Sorry. Suicide prevention, postvention.
So suicide prevention is obviously you're trying to prevent suicides, and you're trying to give mental health care and the mental health peer support care that people need. And I know in our organization, we've had a rough year. We've had suicides this year. A couple of weeks ago, one of my good friends unfortunately took his own life, and we had to do what we do. We go to a funeral and we carry him, we fold his flag because that's what you're supposed to do. You go to funerals. And so that's been a struggle for us. And the postvention is what you do after a suicide to make sure the members around you are okay. And the ironic thing about this is when my friend took his life, I was actually scheduled months ago for a suicide postvention class about 2 days after he took his life. But I had scheduled this months before.
Wow.
So I didn't even know if I could do this class. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. So I remember going to the class, and I was sitting next to one of our peer support members, and I sat in that class and I held it in. I mean, I didn't hold it in. I was visibly crying in the class, but I felt like I had to. I remember I stepped out at one point and I called my fire chief. I said, Chief, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can get through this. And he said, you don't have to do it. And I said, I have to, because if I don't learn what we do after we have one of these events. I can't tell anybody about it. Right. And so I took that information, and hopefully I'm able to spread that to our organization. And obviously I haven't done it yet, because I thought about sending it out to our organization last week, but it's so close to what happened. The holidays are coming up. I don't know how to balance this,
No. Yeah.
it matters to me. And I feel like people are struggling that I love and I care about, and I'm struggling with it too. So when's the right time? I don't know, but I know I have this document that I want to send out to our people, and I want other people to see it too, because we're experiencing this in this profession. I know for us, we have done a lot on the mental health side. We have mental health care, we have trauma-informed clinicians, we have peer support. But the biggest thing to do is just go back and just looking out for one another. Just send somebody a text message, just check on them, like check on the guy you ride the rig with. Check on your battalion chief sometimes. I always ask the guys that and the girls on the rigs. I'm like, hey, when's the last time you checked on your battalion chief? We're people too. Like things bother me too. Like I have mental health issues myself from the 18 years of rebuilding an organization and carrying a lot of people since that time, but I'm still there trying to make a difference. Right. And that's the part that I think you can prevent suicide, because you can talk with people and you can talk with them about what they're feeling and trying to help them get the help that they need. And so I'm super passionate about that, because the research shows you're 3 to 4 times more likely to lose one of your members by suicide than you are by a line of duty death. And that's scary.
No doubt. Hey, sorry for your loss, my brother. And then talking about the postvention, the class you attended, that just happens. I always say everything happens for a reason, and I don't know if that is the right statement here as I say that, but the fact that you had that class to attend at that point, and now to bring that back, there was a direction I was going with that. Is it? There seems to be so much you guys have put on the front burner for mental health and preparing your people for this kind of stuff. Like that was already scheduled. It wasn't like this was a reactionary class. That's not that's not a normal thing I hear about in most organizations. And so, go ahead.
No, so the good thing is we have those trauma-informed clinicians, and I keep saying that statement because that's what you want for your members, trauma-informed, because they understand what we deal with as firefighters, police, EMS, military. But they always send out these opportunities to all of the organizations in the area. And so our peer support team, we probably have between 15 and 20 members. And so our peer support team commander sent it out to us and said, hey, there's a suicide postvention class coming up in a couple months. Sign up for it. And he signed up for it, and myself. And so we went to the class together. He's actually a guy that was on the rig with me when I was an engineer. So a good friend of mine, really big into mental health. And this is just something we wanted to learn more about, because we saw these issues that were now starting to infiltrate our organization. We've had a few suicides in our organization, and it's very scary to feel that and to know these people that, these guys, you knew them, and you love these guys, And so how do you deal with it afterwards to make sure your organization has the resources to respond to something like this, because it's going to affect a lot of other people. And so we try to be ahead of the curve as we can. And we even have an app for our members, and I'm going to pull up on my phone and see if I can show you. It's called the South Carolina Peer Support Connect app. It's just you can't really see it, but it's basically like it looks like Facebook, but it's not Facebook. It's a confidential application that you can pull up. You see at the top, you see my insignia. It says Peer Connect. So there's a button on there to where I can say request support. Let's see if I can find it here. So if I hit request support, you're going to see that button, request support.
Yes.
If I hit that button, I can promise you in the next minute, I'll have phone calls and text messages of people. What's going on? What do we need to do? So I have chosen 5 people on the peer support team, which I'm on the peer support team too.
Okay.
I have chosen 5 people that if I have a mental health crisis or my family does, those are the people that I will request support from, and they will gather all the resources that we have to come and help. And so all of our members in our organization have gone through an introduction to this application, how it works, how they can use it, and it works. I mean, I've had people use it before, and it's incredible. But if you don't have the resource, then how are your members able to reach out to you confidentially and know that you'll help them? And the weird part about my position is that a lot of times it puts me in a weird spot because I'm peer support heavy, but I'm the assistant chief. So a lot of times I'll go to someone and talk to them and say, hey, right now I'm not the assistant chief. Like if I could take my uniform shirt off, I would, but you're looking at me as David as the peer support guy, because that's what I'm there for. I'm there for your mental health. I'm there for you to try to help you get through your day or whatever that mental health crisis is. And so being very clear with that is very, very important.
No, I love it. And I want to tie it right back to what we talked about at the beginning, which was those station visits and that believability, that authenticity and being real. And that is what allows you, I think, to be effective. And this is me outside looking in, obviously, as we talk, but it's not like anyone can do that. And so kudos for the investment on the front end that reaps those rewards on the back end so that you can be effective in that regard. Because without that being real, that's how you put it. Just be real. Without that, the rest doesn't matter. I mean, you can't do what we're talking about. Uh, so yeah, let's move to Kyle Piverall had a question I wanted to get to here, and he says, on the opposite side of the spouse topic, what are some ways to balance out the passion for the job and home life while being present at both?
Wow, that's a hard one. I'm terrible at that. I'll go ahead and be real with you on that one. I'm still working on it. I think when you're passionate about this job, it's hard to turn it on and turn it off, right? It's just always on.
Mm-hmm.
What I've been trying to do, and this has been a big year for me trying to work on that, is when I'm home, I'm present. I'm focused on what we're doing as a family, but I'm still not good at it. And so, what I will tell you is you have to make a very, very conscious effort. And how you do that is you make rules. You have to set rules and boundaries for yourself. So when you get home, I don't know if you're a shift worker, day worker, whatever it may be, but you have to set these rules and boundaries that allows you to take a break. I am very connected to my phone. I have so many text groups and signal applications with so many groups of people on it, but sometimes I just have to put it down, right? And so at night, usually for about an hour and a half to 2 hours at night when I do my workout, I put my phone away and I go MIA if I have to. Now I have certain numbers and certain apps that are always on 24 hours a day because I don't have a choice because of the position that I'm in, right? But I think there are times in your job that you don't have to do that, but it's with setting boundaries and you have to find those.
No, it's beautiful. And being present, man, where you're at, be there. Because this job will replace what's most important to you if you allow it to. It will. It will. And it'll feel like it's right that you're doing it, and it's not. It's not.
Oh, always.
No, absolutely. I love it. Um, sweet. I love this question. This is one of my favorite. I see if I had anything else. Uh book or books. I love asking firefighters what books, even if they're not readers, what books have made an impact on your life, and what books do you think firefighters should be reading? Does not have to be a firefighter book. It's whatever's impacted you. So go ahead.
I read a book recently called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. So you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But it was interesting when I saw the title and I wanted to read more about it. So I picked it up and I started to get into it. And I was just like, man, it just makes a lot of sense, right? Because for a guy like me who's very, very intense, it's hard for me not to care. Like all I do is care. I care too. Sometimes I care too much that I got to calm it down. I just can't help it. But I think that book really opened my eyes to how at work it's okay to have that demeanor sometimes. And I think that's where I'm able to harness a lot of my intensity when I'm able to go like at station visits. I'm not like this at station visits. It's the opposite at station visits. I'm usually sitting there and guys are coming at me very passionate, and I love it because I tell them, I'm like, if you're not emotional and passionate with me, I don't know what matters to you, right? I don't want you to be boring. I want you to give me something. And so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
No, absolutely. Books, subtle art, amazing. Any others? I don't want to cut you off because the story was good.
No, Deep Survival is another one. Deep Survival is a really cool book. I picked that up because it was about adrenaline junkies and how they tested their limits and really how it was the unconscious competence that allows them to function in those kinds of environments. And that I relate that always to kind of the things I do in my life. I love combat sports. I love boxing. I love bare knuckle boxing. I used to do jujitsu a lot. I have a buddy that I'm on the job with that he's always trying to get me to come back and do jujitsu. But I just love stand-up combat sports. I love going fast on motorcycles. I love going fast on jet skis. I love jumping waves, doing flips on I mean, anything crazy I like to do. And that's where the Deep Survival book came into play for me because it's in those moments that everything disappears to me. When I'm on a jet ski going fast and jumping waves and doing all this stuff, like the world is gone to me. I just see these waves and I'm just trying to jump and do these crazy things. Or if I'm on a motorcycle going through the backwoods and I'm going fast, all I see, it's an awesome, intense interaction to where the world just shuts off. And I think that's part of what you have to have in your life to be able to balance leadership and your family, but also who you are. Like you have to have an out. Like, I got on my bike today to ride because I just needed to go get it out for a little bit. So I got on that thing and and it was like 31 degrees, but don't worry. I look like the guy on A Christmas Story with all the puffy clothes on. But when you're in that mode, it just makes you feel like you're you. And you just can't forget that.
Dude, I love it. I absolutely love it. Bare knuckle boxing. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. I really didn't know this was something that was going on. It's like an underground, like Fight Club.
No.
Not allowed to talk about it type deal, or
No. So there's a league. It's called Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. I'm not in that, but I'm training because I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping that I actually put in an application to go to one of their tryouts as an old man to go in there and throw my hands again, because I love doing it. So I've been training again. Bare knuckle boxing is a little different than boxing with a glove on, because your reach is a little different. You got to think with your knuckle. Usually with a glove on, it's about this much further, but now you have your knuckle. So it kind of changes your stance, your foot movement. It's a little different. And plus, I'm a little bit older now, so my body, it responds a little differently. So I had a pretty intense one yesterday. I think I did 32-minute rounds of all kind of stuff, boxing, jump rope, sprints, all the things. And today I'm definitely feeling that I'm 44 years old. But I say that because I'm always trying to test myself. Like
Sure.
I'm not afraid to go do something that's in my heart, because again, that's what makes me. That allows me to be myself. So when I go to work, I can still be true and authentic to who I am. And I think that's important, because once you lose that, you really lost your direction in life.
Love it. I absolutely love it. So is there headgear? I mean, obviously there has to be just actually taking knuckles to the face.
Now, an actual, like, it's called BKFC.
Okay.
It's like the fastest growing combat sports promotion there is. It's crazy. And I'm not on it.
Okay.
I put in an application to try out to see if I could get into it. But I started training with it. So obviously when you train, yes, you have headgear on,
Okay.
you have the proper equipment on, but in the real
match, it's the real deal. Okay.
it's the real deal.
That's a
Yeah.
stat.
The only thing you can tape up is your wrist. You can't have tape on your knuckles at all.
Wow. Okay. We have a thing we do. It is called the 5 questions for firefighters. And on the 5 questions for firefighters, there are no right answers. They are strictly your opinion only. And then we pass out points. The points are arbitrary. They're passed out by me with the help of the studio audience, or the live audience, I should say. So with all that being said, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
Fire away.
What is the skill? Number 1, what is the skill that has carried you through your fire service career?
Being real.
Easy answer, and also very consistent for the show. So sometimes it does come straight from what you've already said, but that's an easy max points with the being real. Easy number 1 right out the gate. Don't be fake. Yeah, Sam said it. Don't be fake. Number 2, it's Jobtown. It's time. You're in route and responding. You got to think of the scene from Backdraft where he's slapping that tape into that cassette deck. What song are you playing while en route?
Here we go.
Oh,
yeah, we got it. That's better than me answering the question.
I had to try to hit it.
That's the Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of the Tiger. I was gonna say.
We got to get to the right part of it. There it is.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if you were gonna actually do the vocals or not.
I mean, I can if you want me to, but
do we want you to? That's the question. Do you have some pipes?
No, you don't want me to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Is that the first time for Eye of the Tiger? I believe so. Yes. There's been a lot of songs, but I'm like, that's actually one of the few songs that we used to cover back when I played in a band. And
oh yeah,
yeah. So I love the song. So, and there's also, just so you know, there's also a Spotify playlist with all of the scrap guest answers that exist. So that one will be added to the list. What is your favorite fire service tradition?
Eating together.
Easy.
Yeah,
I don't think there is a dynamic that exists like the firehouse kitchen table in any other profession, any other calling or anything. And I never served in the military, never served in a combat zone or anything like that. So something might exist there that I'm not aware of. But as far as like just a civilian life, a normal life, the firehouse kitchen table might be the greatest. I love it when people say that, man. Number 4, this one we had to put on the clock because, and max points, by the way, 1, 2, and 3, max points, easy max points. The audience absolutely agrees and is given max points. But number 4 is on the clock because we had to, because it's not a fair question, first of all. So just be aware, it's not a fair question. But who are the 4 people you would put on your Mount Rushmore of the fire service? You have 1 minute to answer and go.
All right, you said it's not a fair question, so I'm not giving you a fair answer, but this is who would be on my Mount Rushmore. Captain Mike Binky, Captain Billy Hutchinson, Captain Lewis Mulkey, Engineer Mark Kelsey, Engineer Brad Beatty, Assistant Engineer Michael French, Firefighter Brandon Thompson, Firefighter Earl Drayton, and Firefighter Melvin Champagne. Charleston 9.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an easy max points, my brother. And number 5, heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
You better give me that nozzle. Get out the way. Put a different song on. Get out the way.
Get out the way. Absolutely destroyed the 5 questions for firefighters. Yeah, Joe Gavita said best answer. No, absolutely crushed the 5 questions for firefighters, my brother. Very, very powerful. Yeah. And that officially makes number 279 in the books. My brother, David Griffin.
Right.
If people want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to do so?
Our website's drdavidgriffin.com. Instagram is at Dr. David Griffin. LinkedIn is Dr. David Griffin, and X is On a Mission LLC.
Brother. Wow. Housekeeping here at the end. If you want to be a vigilante, go be a vigilante. One of the cool parts of being a vigilante is you get invited to the scrap after party where you get to roast the guest. And
Awesome.
He said he does bare knuckle boxing. He's ready for the roast. So if you want to be a part, he said he would come in there. So get ready to bust his chops. It promises to be a good one. Coming up next week, it is the end of the year show. It is Rick Lasky coming on to wrap up 2024, and then we'll kick off 2025 in style. So Chief Dr. David Griffin, lots of titles, but Chief Griffin, thank you so much for spending your evening with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Audience, you make the scrap magical. It would not exist without you. Thank you for the great questions. Again, I love you tuning in, spending your evening with us. You make the scrap what it is. Mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent unless it is burning. Everybody, stay safe out there.